when we break $10,000, it's very likely we're going to go back up to, or we're going to continue to 20, 30, maybe even 40,000.
BitSwap is the hottest new way to trade tokens. Crawling all the top decentralized exchanges, BitSwap will get you the very best price and value for your trades. BitSwap is changing the game. Try it now at bitswapdex.com. Welcome to BitBoy Crypto, the largest crypto channel in all the interwebs. My name is Ben. Every day on this channel, I show you how to make money in cryptocurrency. If you like money in crypto, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Today, guys, I brought on Carl from the moon to discuss the short term, what we could see from Ethereum. Could we see Ethereum hit $4,000 in the next few weeks? And then for the longer term, could it go to $20,000, $30,000, or even $40,000? We're going to take a look at that, as well as glance at Bitcoin and what you can expect from it as well. Now, guys, don't forget, if you want to take advantage of any of this technical analysis or trading information, you guys can always go to bitboycrypto.com/deals and click on the Bybit section. There, you can get access to the biggest deal Bybit has ever had, $1,610 in deposit bonus, but your time's running out to give that a shot. So like I said, make sure to check out bitboycrypto.com/deals. You get access to all of our best deals and trading tools. All right, guys, let's go ahead and jump into this interview. Let's see what Carl's got to say about ETH. Hey, everybody. Today, I'm once again joined by my friend, your friend, Carl from the moon on YouTube. You guys don't forget, go down and make sure to hit the subscribe button on his channel. We'll have the link down below. You get expert technical analysis. And today, I think TA is kind of fun because we're going to be looking at Bitcoin and Ethereum. Ethereum close to all-time highs today, maybe at new all-time highs by the time you guys watch this. But first and foremost, Carl, how are you doing today?
Yeah, I'm doing fantastic. I think this crypto bull market is amazing. It's treating us all very, very well. Me included, my audience included, your audience. So I think we're all pretty happy.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get into Ethereum because the charts, in my opinion, right now are looking very bullish for Ethereum. And even when things have been looking bearish, it's still been going up for some reason. So what are you seeing with Ethereum? Let's start there. And then a little bit later, we'll dig into Bitcoin.
Yep, sounds great. Let's get into the charts. All right, so this is Ethereum on the 1 hour time frame. And we saw this diamond pattern form in Ethereum. And these diamond patterns are interesting because, first of all, a diamond pattern, it has to look like a diamond like this. And we always have a huge move in the middle of the pattern, which we saw right here with a big volume. That's key. If you don't see this, then it's not a diamond pattern. And also we need a big sharp uptrend leading into the pattern. Now, this actually broke to the upside, and the target that it depends on exactly where you put it, but let's say you put it right there. Then you take this pole or whatever you want to call it. And this gives us a target of approximately $3.8 thousand for Ethereum. So this is Ethereum against the US dollar. And so that's kind of the quick little summary of what I've seen here in the past few days. And I made a video about this actually before we broke out. But now I think that we can also entertain something else here. Let me show you another line right there. Let me make this white so we can differentiate a bit. And we could also do something like this. And if so, then we could definitely make the case that we could be in this rising wedge or upwards trending channel. And yeah, I mean, everyone who knows any basic TA should know that this is a bearish pattern actually. Then again, bearish patterns in crypto, I mean, it's like in crypto, both bullish patterns and bearish patterns are bullish patterns. It's funny. Yeah. It's like, especially in Bitcoin, whenever you see a rising wedge in the bull market, it tends to break to the upside, or at least it breaks up more often than you would expect based on statistics. So yeah, that said, this is a bearish pattern. And if we were to break the supports, then the target should be the bottom of the wedge, which is down here at $3.1 thousand approximately. So if someone would like to take a trade here, then you could make a trade of approximately like 9%. Obviously, it is always a little bit risky to short in a bull market. That should be said. If we break to the upside, then I could see something quite conservatively like this. This would be the conservative target. I would say $3.9 thousand, which lines up. I mean, also depends on where we break out, right? If we break up here, then it will be a little bit higher. But let's put it there, and that is actually quite consistent with what we just talked about in this diamond pattern. So you can see that these two targets lining up pretty nicely. So
well, it's pretty interesting that those line up like that. Yeah, I think that we could be heading up close to $4,000 here in the short term. But I would say, people are asking me like, is it a good time to buy Ethereum? And then they hear, well, oh, your price prediction for the end of the year is like $27,000. Like, so obviously it's well below that, so I should buy it. And that's where you really get into like looking at the macro versus the micro timeframes. In the micro time frame here, like I definitely would be waiting for a dip back down probably to the lower 3,000s before getting back in. But if you don't care if it goes down in the short term, then, you could certainly go ahead and buy some Ethereum or trade it on Bybit or whatever you want to do. But yeah, that's what I'm kind of looking at. I think at some point, like this momentum has got to slow down a little bit. Am I right?
This, I think you're correct about. I think that nothing goes up forever. And if we zoom out a bit, let me zoom out to the daily. Now I have a bunch of lines here because I've been making literally like, I don't know, in even 100 trades here or something. You can see it's crazy. But if you kind of cancel out the noise, we broke out of this big rising wedge. Based on what we just talked about, this big yellow rising wedge here, it actually broke to the upside, as you can see, and Ethereum just flew to the upside. But if I just do this, just basically take away everything, you can see that we're looking very parabolic. It's like a parabolic run up, and these tend to end at some point. Yeah, obviously, like there's going to be a blow off top. I think that Ethereum is looking very bullish. It's looking healthy against Bitcoin and everything. I mean, you cannot look at this and say that it's time to sell, because obviously we're in a bull market and the trend is your friend. So it depends. Like in the short term, yes, Ethereum can go down. It's very possible. Like I said, we have a rising wedge. If you break down, could go down to 3,000. So if you want to buy in the short term, it all depends on what support and resistance line we break. But if you want to buy Ethereum for the long term, let's say for the next 5 years, or let's say the next 2 years, for the next 2 years, I think that you are getting still a decent buy-in price. Yeah. I think that as soon as Ethereum goes above 10,000, it's unlikely that we go down below 3,000 again.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Obviously, it's possible. Obviously, it's very possible based on the fact that in the previous bear market, Ethereum corrected, I think, now I don't have the exact number, but I think it was way more than 90%.
Yeah, it was like 95%, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So 95%, which is huge. It's huge. So if Ethereum goes up to X amount, you should always calculate the risk of Ethereum coming back down 95%, because it's possible. It literally happened before. But still, when we break $10,000, it's very likely we're going to go back up to, or we're going to continue to 20, 30, maybe even 40,000. So what I'm saying basically is that obviously it would have been much nicer to buy Ethereum at $500, like you and me actually, and most of our audience here. Yep. But if you're jumping into crypto right now, I still think that Ethereum is looking quite decent. But as soon as we go up to like $10,000 or so, I would say that you kind of missed the boat a little bit here for this bull cycle, because you could potentially, you could double your money, triple your money, but it's a huge risk that it's going to come back down below your entry point.
Risk versus reward. The risk at that point is higher than the potential of the reward.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, that's what I want to say here. And that's why I think it's very important for everyone to know that the big money is made in the bear market, not in the bull market. It's like, this is kind of proof of that, because you and me, I mean, we've been accumulating for the past 2-3 years, and we don't have to buy Ethereum now, because Ethereum is, I mean, we hold it already, right? Now it's the mainstream jumping in and basically pumping up the prices and making the bear market warriors rich. And that's how it's going to be in the next bear market as well. So if you're jumping into crypto right now, I would say that maybe this is not your big opportunity. Your opportunity is going to be in the bear market that is coming up very soon. That's when you can pick up Bitcoin and Ethereum and all these other altcoins for cheap, hopefully.
Yeah, I think that's great. And one thing that I found really interesting is we jump into Bitcoin here in a second, is that you're a total technical analysis guy. You look at the charts, you dig into the TA. You're a much better expert on TA than I ever, than I will ever be. I know that for a fact. But I'm a fundamental guy. Like, I just look at the news. I look at what's happening. I look at on-chain stuff. Look at, different kinds of charts, more informational charts than technical analysis charts. And the interesting thing is, we both have the same number. We both say $10,000, anything above $10,000, you're getting into more of the risk versus the reward. And I think that's pretty interesting that we come from two totally different approaches and we kind of have the same number that we're looking at. Like, after it hits 10K, it's going to be hard for me to tell people to buy Ethereum.
Yeah. Yeah. Makes total sense.
Yeah.
But what do you say? Should I take a quick look at?
Yeah. Let's take a quick look at Bitcoin and just kind of see what we're looking at, on the charts.
Yeah. So actually, I just have a very, very quick thing I want to show you here. And that is the fact that I think it's obvious that this huge run up that we've had here on the weekly time frame the bullish momentum is running out. We're starting to go kind of sideways here, which is generally, it's more bearish than bullish because obviously the bulls are losing momentum, which could mean that the bears are stepping back in here. Now, one thing I want to show you is this bearish divergence on the weekly time frame right here, as you can see here. And this doesn't mean that we have to see a huge bear market. It simply means that it's very likely that we're going to go sideways here and consolidate for quite some time, or go downwards. To me, it's a bearish divergence is just is showing us that the bullish momentum is running out of steam. And if we were to go back to the previous time, or the other time we saw a huge bearish divergence on the weekly, it was way back in June 2019. And let's just take a quick look at that real quick. And I don't want to scare anyone here, but back then we did see a pretty substantial correction in even bear market here after that bearish divergence on the weekly. You can see that we came up to 14,000, and then from 14,000, if you calculate the Corona dump, we came down to 4K. But obviously, we could also skip Corona and say that a 50% correction here happened after that bearish divergence. I don't think we're going to see another Corona happen. So it maybe doesn't really make sense to put that into the calculation. But let's just play with the idea. What if we see a 50% correction from this high at 65K approximately? That could take Bitcoin back down to like $33,000 or something. Again, I'm not saying that's going to happen. I'm just saying that this is something that has happened before, and we should always be objective, right? But we're still bullish. We're still very, very bullish on Bitcoin. It's just that if we do see Bitcoin break down below key support, then this would be the bearish case.
Yeah, I think at this point, once again, bringing up the fundamentals, I think is important too, because a lot of people believe that large dump that we got after that, kind of spring, summer run up in 2019 is actually due to the Plus token Ponzi scheme, which is actually the fourth biggest Ponzi scheme in the history of the world, actually even bigger than BitConnect. And it was in China, and there were, billions of dollars that were, basically stolen in this Ponzi scheme. And then over the next several months, they were selling off and selling off and selling off. And so I do think there is a comparison here to look at what's happening now and what's happening then, where, if you go back and you look at the chart, I know people are looking at it right now, they're in May and July. There through July through probably about August, it seemed to go sideways and consolidate. And then we got the selling pressure downwards from the Ponzi scheme that was selling off all the tokens. So I do think that we could see an extended period here of consolidation, which if you're into altcoins, you got to love that, because this means altcoins are going to be ripping most likely.
That's a good point. When Bitcoin goes sideways, especially after a huge run up like this, alts tend to kill it. So yeah, another altcoin or a prolonged altcoin season could be happening. That's for sure.
Yep. Well, Carl, thank you so much for joining us today. As always, you did a phenomenal job talking about Ethereum, Bitcoin. You're the expert we go to for this TA stuff. And guys, if you drop some comments down below, let us know what you want us to talk about on the next collaboration. Carl, you have anything you want to add before we go?
I would just say be cautious out there. Enjoy the gains. The gains are not going to last forever. So take profits, especially in altcoins, right? Obviously, Bitcoin, it's going to go up, I think, for the next 10, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So I'm sitting safely in that boat. But on my altcoins, I am starting to look towards taking profits here and there, because these gains, like I said, they will not last forever.
That's right. Easy come, easy go. Well, girl, thank you so much for joining us. Everybody else, drop those comments down below. That's all I got. Be blessed. Good boy out.